Hi, welcome to this YouTube video. I'm Rebecca Chapman, the flute professor at Utah Valley University, and today we're going to go through the top 10 mistakes you don't want to make on this year's Flute All State audition. First, let's hear what the music sounds like. For the top 10 mistakes you don't want to make, we're going to go in order of importance from least important to most important. Of course, we'll keep in mind that there is some subjectiveness here. For number 10, we're going to be looking at the difference of note length in bars 27 through 30. Notice how the first notes are staccato, and then in 28, beat 2, we have a tenuto marking. We have the same pattern in bars 29 and 30. I like to put 2 shakes of vibrato on the tenuto notes, and it will sound something like this. For mistake number 9, we are going to work on our sound in the high register. We're flute players, so we play a lot in the high register. The judges are going to be looking for a beautiful, consistent sound, especially in the high register. In measure 24, it's easy to blast out these notes so shrill. Instead, I like to practice replacing those high notes with harmonics. We'll finger low D flat and low E flat while we play the higher pitches. I'll demonstrate slowly. It may be a bit challenging. You can expect to feel some resistance, but this is what's going to make it so easy when we put in the natural fingers. Remember how we said the judges are looking for consistency in sound? This goes for the low register as well. Let's look at measure 9. Have you ever heard a low register sound that's fuzzy or airy? Well, if that's how your low register sounds, no worries. Let's get that clear sound together. It's marked piano, but it also says agitato, so we're looking for an edgy, pure sound. The easiest way to achieve this is to make sure your air isn't aiming too high. Aim that air into the embouchure hole. You can imagine you're making a beard with your air, and you'll have a lot of success. If you have more questions about this, just shoot me an email and we can work through it together. In bar 22, we have a really lovely melody. Now, this melody won't sound so lovely if we start with a punchy accent. Resist this impulse. Ooh, we really want to do it, but don't let yourself. Instead, let's demonstrate our control by coming in with a luscious warm G. Same thing with measure 25. It's a little trickier here since we're an octave higher. We can use our trick of replacing the high G with a low C harmonic. Remember, we finger the low C and blow the high G. Don't forget, these harmonics may feel challenging, but they allow us to get a free and open sound without the accent. Let's take a look at measures 27 through 33. Do you see any dynamic markings here? Any forte, piano, crescendo, decrescendo? You'll notice, wait, there are no dynamic markings. Does that mean they want us to play it all the same, like a robot? Of course not. At the beginning and end of the day, we musicians are artists, so let's put some phrasing in and show you can be musical even when it's not written in by the composer. Use your creativity. There are several options for you to choose. You may want a crescendo for 4 bars from 27 through 30, play 31 and 32 forte, and finish with a soft D on beat 2 and 33, like a little echo. It'll sound like this. We're going to make sure that our long notes are long enough. Our long notes are where we often cheat the rhythm. A prime example of this is in bar 23. You can believe that your judges are going to be tapping their toes or counting meticulously to see, are you holding that tie for this proper value? Ties are wonderful spots to lose points in an audition, but you don't need to lose those points. Instead, we're going to subdivide and make sure we're holding our long notes for a precise value. What do I mean by subdivide? I'm going to tongue the 8th note values in bar 23. Now I'm going to practice that subdivided version 10 times. Then when I play it normal, I can hear that subdivision without actually doing the tonguing. You can do the same process for all tied and long notes. It's essential to play all of the slurs slurred and tongue all of the tongue notes. Wait, you already knew that. Well, let's triple check and make sure this is actually what you're playing. If I were you, I would print off a clean copy and highlight all the slurs. Next, we're going to play only the slurred parts. After I've played my slurred version, I'll play my tongued version and only play the notes that are tongued. We talked about putting in phrasing when there was none written in, but how about really committing to the phrasing that's already on the page? Do you think our judges will be listening for the phrasing markings written in your music? Oh yes. The first thing I would do is print off another copy. You're going to have lots of copies of this by the time we're done. And I take 5 different colors. One that will represent piano, one for mezzo piano, mezzo forte, forte, crescendos, diminuendos. You get the picture. Decide which colors match the best for you. Then we're going to highlight all of our dynamic markings and we're going to practice just playing the piano sections like this. Now we'll play only the mezzo piano dynamic sections. Next, you guessed it, we're going to practice our mezzo forte, forte, crescendo, and diminuendo sections. If you're not sure if your dynamics are coming through, I recommend recording yourself, on your phone is fine, and listening back. Can you hear the difference between your soft and your loud playing? Mistake number 2 is having sloppy technique on the fast sections. Let's take measure 3. How can you get that fast and perfectly clean? Well, first, I would memorize it right away. This way, I'm not reading the individual notes and I can focus on my fingers. I'm going to think in terms of which fingers I might need. I might verbally say what the fingers are doing. For the F sharp, I might think of my right hand 4th finger, and D, I might think of these 2 fingers. I might think 4th to 2. Well, if this still doesn't make sense, feel free to shoot me an email and we can talk about it. The next step is no secret. We're going to practice slow and work up the tempo using a metronome. I'd probably stick my metronome at half tempo to begin. To help me increase the speed more naturally, I'm going to practice with different rhythms, such as long short and short long. You'll find this makes it much easier to speed up the tempo. Now there are so many more rhythms I use, but for time's sake, I'm only demonstrating with long short and short long. What is the number one thing they're going to be listening for? I've had a chance to talk with famous flute players who played first chair in major symphonies. You know what they've all said? Rhythm is the language of the orchestra. Having that steady pulse is paramount. This means you must have a steady pulse throughout. So how do we practice this? Well, of course, with our metronome. I had a metronome on my stand while I played the etude at the beginning of this video. You couldn't hear it ticking, but I could visually see while I played. I recommend practicing it in small chunks with the metronome and gradually increasing the size of the chunks as you practice. Record yourself on your phone playing with the metronome. Listen back. Are you really with the metronome? Next, turn off the metronome and record yourself. When you listen back, turn the metronome on. Does it line up with your playing? Where did you get off? Circle those spots. Practice those spots. Remember, a steady beat is paramount. Since you stayed and listened to the entire video, I have a bonus tip for you. To make bar 3 easier to play, I replaced the high F sharp fingering with an easier one. I like to finger regular B instead of F sharp. I blow through the note and it sounds just like the F sharp when you're playing quickly. Give it a try and I think you'll find it's easier to play bar 3. I know you're invested in your All State audition since you've listened to this entire video. I wish you the best of luck in your practice. Please feel free to shoot me an email with any questions you have.